talking trades on today's edition of Vikings Now by Chat Sports. What's going on, guys? My name is Patrick Siepman. Come up on today's show, I want to go over 5 big-time trade ideas for the Vikings that will help improve their roster heading into the season, as, with some extra cap space and possibly getting an extra pick from the Falcons due to them violating some tampering rules. Could they be in the trade market? We'll talk about it here in a second. But speaking of the Falcons, we are still in our subscriber battle with Falcons today here by Chat Sports. I want to absolutely bury them as they, I don't want to say they took Kirk Cousins from us, but hey, that's his new ball club. So I want to beat him in subscribers. So if you guys could lock us in and hit that subscribe button and help us reach 27,000 subs. If we could hit that before the season, it would be absolutely awesome. But the first trade target we're going to talk about on today's show is Treylon Burks, the wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans. As a former first-round pick, he's got major juice to his game. And, he hasn't been able to get his feet wet in the NFL just yet, as, he has been dealing with injuries and just overall inconsistent quarterback play in Tennessee is a big reason why he's only got, just under 700 yards in his career so far. But he was a former first-round pick. He has the ability to do so. A pro comp for him coming out of college was A.J. Brown, a big body receiver who is a freak athlete. But, the stats, they don't really lie for Treylon Burks. He has struggled in his NFL career. You could chalk it up to quarterback play, or his personal performance. But, no doubt he has not lived up to the first-round hype. And the Vikings, we have said it, wide receiver 3 could be a position they are going to target before the season. We've talked about Hunter Renfrow or signing Michael Thomas. Like, we've talked about some of these guys. What if it's a guy on the trade market like Treylon Burks, and then you would have 3 first-round picks as your top 3 receivers at the wide receiver spot, being Jefferson, Addison, and then obviously Treylon Burks. But, my take on it is, if it's for a day 3 pick, I'd do it. I'd roll the die on him, see if he can live up to that first-round hype, and then let's just say he is, or if he is, somewhat of who he was supposed to be coming out of college, like, you would have 3 stud receivers, and you would have 3 different types of receivers, where Treylon Burks would be that big body, physical, red zone threat type of guy. Jordan Addison would be the kind of elusive possession receiver. And then also Treylon Burks could play some X on the outside. And we know Jefferson, he can play all over the field. He is the perfect receiver, the most complete receiver. So I would like how each 3 of those guys would complement each other, if he were to join the Minnesota Vikings. But kick at the number 2 here, dressing the cornerback position, as this is a name that's been tossed around a lot in the latest trade rumors amongst NFL teams. Greg Newsome II from the Cleveland Browns. Now, I loved him coming out of Northwestern, a very intelligent football player. There's some sweet quotes from his former head coach at Northwestern, Pat Fitzgerald, talking about how awesome Greg was for instilling a culture in that program. But he had a pretty good year last year. I mean, the completion percentage allowed was only 56.7, had 14 pass breakups and 2 interceptions, also had a touchdown on the year as well. But, his career numbers, like, he has been pretty consistent for Cleveland. I don't know if he was living up to the hype he had around him coming out, but he is a damn good football player. He is a smart football player, and he's been consistent during his time in Cleveland. I mean, last year was his best year of his career, no doubt about it. So would Cleveland want to move on? Who knows in that regard. But, in terms of the Vikings, like, why not take a chance on a guy like Greg Newsome? Like, just adding more talent, adding another body into that cornerback room for Brian Flores, and just kind of give him another chess piece he can deploy. I think he would be a great option because, this Vikings cornerback room, like, love what we have in, like, B-level guys, like the Kyrie Jacksons, the Mekhi Blackmans, the Caleb Evans. Like, I love those guys. I just think the Vikings need another one, and you just kind of play the game of hoping one of those guys takes that next step in being a true cornerback 1. But speaking of a true cornerback 1, this is the best name on this list. This is Marshon Lattimore, cornerback for the New Orleans Saints. As he has had some battles against our Vikings receivers in the past, and there's no doubt he is one of the best cornerbacks still in the National Football League. And this could be a deadline move or a move right before the season. I don't think the Saints are going to move off him this summer at all, as he seems happy to be there, showing up to minicamp this week. The trade rumors around him have kind of died down, but let's just say New Orleans starts off the season slow and the Vikings start off hot. Maybe they're like, hey, screw it, we'll throw you guys a first-round pick or whatever it may be for Marshon Lattimore, maybe that could be an option. But his contract definitely plays a big part here. So 2024, his cap hit is at $14.6 million, but then it skyrockets the next 2 years. As 2025, he would be making $31.4 million. This is the key part from the Viking side of things. Jefferson, he's making a boatload of money in 25. You're assuming Christian Darrisaw, he's going to be making a ton of money. TJ Hawkinson's making $20 million. And then you just got other players at other positions, eating up a lot of the cap space. Like, could the Vikings afford to have that cap hit? Probably not. But in terms of the production, in terms of on the field, like Marshon Lattimore would be, if I had to pick any player to add to this Vikings team, it would probably be a high-end corner. Marshon Lattimore is probably on this list. He has been awesome for the Saints over the past couple of seasons. Has been in and out of the lineup over the past 2 years, only playing 17 games. But, man, he is special. He is an elite talent. I mean, I just think about that London game a couple years ago when it was him and Jefferson just going back and forth. And, Jefferson raved about him after the game. So, Lattimore, he would be a true CB1 the Vikings could trade for. But, again, very unlikely that a deal like that does get done. But another true cornerback one and a younger option for the Minnesota Vikings, Pat Surtain II. And, do I think Sean Payton would throw the Vikings a bone and send them Pat Surtain? Probably not. But maybe the Vikings are sitting there and they're looking at, the tampering allegations going on in Atlanta. Maybe they get word from the league office saying, we're going to give you Atlanta's first-round pick. Maybe the Vikings say, screw it. We'll send our own first-round pick to the Denver Broncos for Pat Surtain. And then looking at this cornerback group, if you just move Byron Murphy over the cornerback 2, Shaq Griffin the cornerback 3, and slotted in Pat Surtain as your cornerback 1, it completely changed the look of this entire room. And then you have guys that can rotate in like Evans, Blackman, Kyrie Jackson, where they wouldn't have, the load of responsibility being, a big rotational piece. They can just kind of play more of a role in this secondary. But Pat Surtain, no doubt about it, man. He is, top 3 corner in the league. It's probably him, Sauce Gardner, and a couple other guys, but he is awesome, man. And, Pat Surtain throughout his NFL career, 187 tackles, 3 TFLs, 36 PBUs, and 7 interceptions. Now, I know it's controversial considering the Vikings' limited draft capital they have next season. They only have their first and 2 fifth-round picks for a total of 3 picks. But I would trade next year's first for Pat Surtain. Like, if the Vikings are true about saying their Super Bowl window is when McCarthy is on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th year of his rookie contract, take advantage of it. Go all out. Go get a true blue-chip player in the secondary like Pat Surtain. And plus, with what's going on in Atlanta, the Vikings could get a second or a first-round pick there. So I would roll the die on it. I would 100% do it. But let me know, would you trade a first-round pick for Pat Surtain? Controversial, I know, considering the Vikings draft, compensation for the next couple of years. I don't know if many people would agree with this. But, hey, give me a T for trade or give me a P for pass if you would trade a first-round pick for Pat Surtain. Now, another wide receiver here. This is Terrace Marshall, the wide receiver for the Carolina Panthers. And again, another former first-round pick who had a big-time talent coming out of LSU. And he, again, just hasn't been able to really get his feet wet in Carolina. And, throughout his career, only has accumulated 64 receptions, 767 yards, 12 yards per catch, and only 1 touchdown. So he hasn't, lived up to that expectation that he had coming out. But again, like, if the Vikings want to add more true raw talent to this wide receiver room, Terrace is a great choice. And, I don't want to blame it on his lack of production for him just being in Carolina, but, I would definitely say that a change of scenery could 100% help his play. Like, if he would come to Minnesota and he would, being able to just be a rotational piece with Brandon Powell and some other guys, like, I think that's where he would thrive. So, out of all these guys, if I had to pick one, it's probably Pat Surtain. But again, he, cost the most, no doubt about it. But hey, there are some options out there for the Vikings if they want to add another wide receiver to this group, like a Terrace Marshall or like a guy like a Treylon Burks. But hey, if you guys made it to the end of today's show, if you guys could give me a skull down there in the chat, want it to look like US Bank Stadium on game day, would really appreciate it. And just shout out to all of you guys for watching this entire show. And if you guys want more around the Minnesota Vikings, on Twitter, that's the handle right there, at Pat Sieps. Give me a follow up there. And if you guys give me a follow, I'll give you guys a follow right back. But thank you guys so much for watching today's show. As always, SKOL Vikes.